Anyway, let's talk for a second about this series and how we're gonna approach this. I mean, I already kind of explained the premise a little bit. We want to focus on games that didn't get that much attention when they got released into arcades. Whether they were just really rare or just people didn't like them. Not necessarily like every game in here is bad. That's definitely not the case. We're also going to look at this as an opportunity to, try to find the every YouTuber's favorite clickbait thing, the hidden gems of the arcade lineup. So let's go over this. Let's go over this very briefly. Yeah, the hidden gems. Yeah, focusing on games that are generally not associated with people's first thoughts when you say the word arcade. I think that's a major part of this. Popular mainstream titles will not be covered, as we want to give some attention to games that didn't get as much notice when they were released. This literally just happened like this past weekend. We went to Next Level Pinball Museum on Saturday, and Next Level's a big place. It's mostly a pinball place, but they've got like other games. And I remember like overhearing this conversation happening behind us. Devil Ray and I were playing the Batman Forever pinball game, and another Gnomon came in while we were playing. And I just remember like hearing this guy talking about, yeah, man, my games, the games I love playing were Simpsons and X-Men. Those were my jam. Like he was saying that to somebody else, and it's like, yeah, those are the games that like always come up when people like think of arcades, or those are the games like people gravitate to. And so I want to use this series to like show off some of the stuff that generally isn't like isn't the basic bitch games. Not that there's anything wrong with some of the basic bitch games, but it's just a lot of stuff got released into arcades. And they're pretty fascinating stuff. So how are games chosen for push to reject? All games are, of course, chosen by myself. I've spent a lot of time like poring over the game list in order, I've been like pre-screening stuff. I've been a lifelong fan of the arcade experience since the mid to late 80s, and I have been regularly playing stuff in arcade emulators ever since I discovered emulators in 1997, and I've been downloading like every new version of MAME ever since then. So I'd like to think I have a lot of experience with the subject, and yeah, MAME Roulette, I did previously stream 3,430 games in MAME Roulette, so I've seen enough of these games. I've seen what people's reactions are. I've seen how people have like distinct memories of certain games, but there's certain games people don't know at all. Oh no, this was pre-Neo Rage. Like this was like when there were like standalone game emulators like Rygar and Black Tiger that weren't even in MAME yet. So the criteria I'm using to choose games, obviously rare games that didn't get much distribution back in the day, so not many people get to play it, then probably going to show up here. Games that just didn't sell very, very well. I mean, they probably didn't sell very well for a reason. Oh no, the Narcs, man. Number 2, arcade games without a large number of home computer ports. Because sometimes these ports become popular despite not having much success in the arcades, and then people come to know the games that way. But, I mean, if the game has home ports, it may still show up here, depending on how well the ports were received, or like if it only got like one port on the Commodore 64 or whatever, and the arcade version is like different, stuff like that. Of course, we're talking about games that receiving ports like in a timely manner. Like some things have gotten like Arcade Archives ports and stuff like that, or appeared on other compilations like way, way, way after the fact. Number 3, games that generally did not make it to English-speaking countries. Now, this is going to be a weird one, because there's some games that were really big in Japan, and we'll probably skip like some of those. But if the games are like mostly unknown in the U.S. and Europe and all that, then we might cover them. This is going to be a very very weird area to cover, but I mean this is mostly speaking about like our experiences collectively as being like not from Japan or whatever, the English speaking market. Mahjong games will not be appearing. There will be no Mahjong games. There will be no games that will get me banned from Twitch. I'm not doing any of that shit. I forgot to put that in the bylines. And of course, prototypes of unreleased games. Absolutely going to cover those because I'm always fascinated by unreleased games, and I feel like these titles that were almost lost forever, they should be seen by a wider audience because, it's fun to speculate as to why the games failed in the first place. Maybe that's kind of cheating because they didn't get a proper release, but fuck it. I like prototypes. Let's show them off. Yeah, Cloud9. Somebody else actually knows Cloud9. High five, Tepid Snake. So, disclaimer, this may not end up being an exhaustive list of every unpopular arcade game. Some of these games might be skipped if they're just too derivative, because turns out that Space Invaders knockoffs, there's way too fucking many of them. Like, just going through the game list of stuff from, like, 1979, there are so many Space Invaders games. So we might be skipping those. What else do I have on these slides? Oh yeah, games will be done in mostly chronological order. We may skip around a little here and there, like the Jetsoft games I want to cover on this special premiere stream, because I didn't want to start with some ugly garbage nobody really gives a shit about. But it's also a great way to see how arcade games matured over time, as advancements in technology and hardware brought new ideas to video games everywhere. So after the initial Jetsoft games that really need to be shown off, we're going back to 1979. I originally said 1980. I wanted to make that the cutoff, but it was brought to my attention that there were at least a few games that were definitely worth showing off in 1979, so why did I choose 1979? Because Space Invaders came out in 1978, and that just Space Invaders kind of changed everything for arcades. Like, I do want to maybe go back to some of the early 70s stuff, the early mid-70s stuff. But the problem was, like, it felt like a lot of games pre-Space Invaders, they were either, like, two-player things. There were so many Pong variants where they were, like, forced two-player stuff. Or they'd be driving games, or anything else that's, like... anything else that, like, runs on a timer. Like, you play... You get, like, 90 seconds for, like, a quarter, and if you reach a certain score, you get, like... 30 extra seconds, and then that's it. The game's over. Like, Space Invaders kind of changed everything because it was a game where you had 3 lives, and you could theoretically, like, keep playing for a while if you were good. And so I think that's the game that really changed the face of arcades for the better. Yeah, that too. There's a lot of Snake variants, stuff like that. Oh yeah. So this means that if you're if you're looking forward to weird games from the late 90s or 2000s, sorry, you're going to be waiting a while, because we want to go through chronologically, and that's going to take a while. And I know I'm going to get a lot of questions. Are you going to cover this game? Are you going to cover that game? And if it's something from the 90s, you might not even be seeing it this year. If we're doing these streams like every 2 weeks, we're in it for the long haul. But I'm also excited for this because, like, a lot of the obscure 80s stuff, that definitely represents a time where arcade companies were like just throwing anything at the wall and seeing what sticks. And a lot of these concepts, like, didn't go over very well. And those are the games that are, like, really fascinating. And of course, the other thing we want to do with this series, when I'm done showcasing each game, I'm going to give it my own personal rating on a 5 bongo scale. I think we're also going to... Oh, there's a missing space there. I think we'll also open it up for a poll if people disagree with me. But I'll still be giving my own rating independent of it, of how I feel it is on the bongo scale. So what is the bongo scale? If it gets 1 bongo... I had text here. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. Game failed for a reason. Multiple reasons, probably. There's a reason it sort of didn't take off and sort of languished in obscurity. 2 bongo butt cheeks. Those are usually games that had a decent idea, but bad execution, or it's just another knockoff of a more popular game like Space Invaders that didn't really bring enough good new things to the table to really make it stand out. 3 bongos. Game that was maybe too high concept, or just another knockoff that could be pretty fun to play, but again didn't really set itself apart. Just not quite a game that would go down in history. A 4 bongo game that I think definitely should have been seen by and played by more people, even if it wasn't destined to go down as a true classic. Like, it's probably something that had some exciting new ideas and might have actually performed them pretty well. But for whatever reason, it maybe just got lost in the shuffle. Who knows? And of course, where is it? The 5 surprise bongos. I think a game with 5 bongos, games that absolutely deserve to be more well known than they ended up becoming. And chances are, a game that got the 5 bongo rating, it's probably become a cult classic in the years afterwards, thanks to emulation, even if it bombed in the arcades. And I don't think you even need to ask. Of course, bongo's going to be a 5 bongo game. Although somebody brought up the subject on a YouTube comment saying, like, but does 1 bongo represent 1/5 of the bongo, or how can 1 bongo be 5 bongos? That really makes you think, huh? Maybe this rating system isn't perfect, but that's what we're going with. That's what I want you to keep in mind when rating these games on the 5-point scale, or it's just how enjoyable they are on a scale of 1 to 5. Yeah, bongo. Obviously, we have to start with bongo.